I'll do it. Will you only give it to me and I'll do it while I'm sitting there? Yeah.
Welcome everyone to our council meeting for Monday, November 27th. Note to all members of the public, all cell phones, pagers and or PDAs to be turned off. Additionally, for your information, please be advised that we are audio-video recording this meeting. Would you all rise for the singing of O Canada and remain standing for the opening petition by Councillor Bell. Councillor Bosma? O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Councillor Bell, please.
We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only the best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral. As we consider the merits and the pitfalls of each matter that we place before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Well, welcome everyone. It's good to have a full council chambers. It's good to see. Lots of blue out in the crowd today. It's good. It's good. Is there any change in order of items on tonight's agenda, members of council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest? And I see none, Madam Clerk. 5, request to address items on the agenda. Is there any member of tonight's gallery that would like to say a few words or request to address an item on tonight's agenda? Nope, we'll move on. Our first order of business tonight is appointments and presentations, and we have a lot of them. We're here to recognize the retirement and medal presentations. First, the retirement of Lieutenant Eric Weaver from Station 1, retiring with 27 and a half years of firefighting service, and Mr. Lloyd Crooks from Station 2, who is retiring with 11 years of firefighter service. I'll mention all the names first, and then we'll have individual awards and presentations. Next, we have Mr. Colton Brockwell, Derek Gallant, Dan Wickerink with their 5-year pins, Wayne Boss, Adam Vandenberg with 10-year pins, and Mr. John Cole, Chris Snokes, 15-year pins, and last but not least, Mr. Ed Braden and Mr. Dale Killens with their 20-year Federal Exemplary Medal. We'll start off with Lieutenant Eric Weaver and Mr. Lloyd Crooks, if you can come forward to the front of the podium here. Chief, Deputy. We're going to do Eric and Lloyd first.
So, on behalf of the Fire Service Lloyd, we appreciate your 11 years of service, dedication, both from the fire ground and at drill and training. So, on behalf of the Fire Service, congratulations.
We have a certificate of recognition also awarded to Lloyd Crooks in appreciation of your 11 years of firefighting service, presented by the municipality of the Township of West Lincoln on this 27th day of November. Congratulations.
Eric, on behalf of the Fire Service, 27 and a half years is a long time to put in and time and effort and dedication to the fire service. So on behalf of the fire service, congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you so much. Same as well. We have a certificate of recognition awarded to you, yourself, Eric Weaver, in appreciation of your 27.5 years of firefighting service. We thought maybe they might have rounded that up to 28, right? The municipality of Township of West Lincoln on this 27th day of November.
We get the same pay anyway.
And for your 27.5 years of service as not only as a firefighter, but also as our fire prevention and public health education officer, we have a little extra token of our appreciation from the Township of West Lincoln. We hope you like it. So let's put our hands together for We do allow you to say a few words if you'd like. If you choose not to, that's up to you too as well.
For 47.5 years, it was a very great battle. You know, we had some good times, some bad times, you know, meaning saving lives and not saving lives. But under Chief Fisher's direction and Kevin McIntyre, you know, the fire department is tremendous highly do a great level where I'm very proud, you know, to be part of this fire department and everybody now coming up behind us is in all in really good hands. Thank you very much, Chief. for everything.
Friends or family that would like to take photos or anything like that? Yeah, come on up.
Oh.
We'll put you in the middle. Just so you to hold two as well.
Great.
Okay, I'll continue on with the 20-year federal exemplary medal. This year goes to two guys that put a lot of time and effort, like everybody else, away from their family, away from their kids, away from their wife. So Ed Braden and Dale Killens.
Ed, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you've done for the township. Chief? Dale, thank you so much for everything you've done. So we have a couple of certificates there from the Township of West Lincoln for both your 20 years of service, exemplary service, and obviously something from the federal government too as well to signify your 20 years of service. So again, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together. There we go. You guys stand in the middle of the
Dale needs a good picture from paper.
Oh, sorry. Somebody missed a photograph?
Oh,
You're good again.
Same order.
We have two guys, two gentlemen with 15 years service, firefighter Chris Noakes and Lieutenant John Cole.
Thank you so much for your years of service. Thank you. Not very good. You got people that want to take a photo. Come on, Chris.
Sharon.
Sure, Sharon. Yeah, but.
let me see, 10 years. Unfortunately, Wayne Boss had called me in. He's got called into work, so he will not be attending tonight. Adam Vandenberg from Station 2. And 5-year pins go to Colton Brockwell, Derek Gallant, and unfortunately Dan couldn't be here tonight either, but Colton and Dan, or Colton and Derek. Thank you for all your years of service. Congratulations.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to stay for our council meeting if you like, but if you would like to leave, now's the time to exit. We'll give you a couple of minutes. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here tonight, and congratulations to all of you.
See you later. Take care. One last thing.
Have a good meeting.
Okay, let's move on to confirmation of minutes. 7A, council minutes, regular minutes, October 23rd, 2017. Confidential minutes are under separate cover. Councillor Bosma, you have that resolution, please.
Thank you very much. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gannan, that the minutes of the open session portion of October 23, 2017 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the October 23, 2017 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Bosman, second by Councillor Gannan. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, and it's carried. Seven B, council minutes. These are the special council minutes from November 15, 2017. Confidential minutes are under separate cover. Councillor Chichuk, you have that resolution, please.
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Trombetta that the minutes of the open session portion of the November 15th, 2017 special council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the November 15th, 2017 special council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Councillors, you've heard that resolution moved by Councillor Chichuk and seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Is there any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Public meetings under the Planning Act, November 13, 2017. Resolution, Councillor Gannan, you have that resolution, please.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that the minutes of the public meeting held on November 13th, 2017, under Section 34 and 51 of the Planning Act, with respect to A, zoning bylaw amendment, Jerry and Paige Kelt, file number 1601-013-17. B, zoning bylaw amendment and plan of condominium, 2424-568 Ontario Inc., Kevin Gonson, file number 1601-013-17. 2000-014-17 and 2000-086-17. And C, zoning bylaw amendment, Shay Jorgao, second public meeting, file number 1601-009-17 be accepted.
Thank you, councilors. You've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Gann and seconded by Councillor Bell. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none at this time, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to communications, Acting Deputy Regional Clerk from the Niagara Region. This is to talk about the proposed change to increase the composition of Regional Council. Additional member for the Township of West Lincoln. This is the notice of the public meeting. This meeting will occur on December 7th. Councillor Rayner, you have that resolution, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself and second by Councillor Trombetta that the correspondence from the Niagara Region dated November 17, 2017 regarding proposed change to increase composition of Regional Council, additional member for West Lincoln, notice of public meeting CLC-C 113-217, minute item 10-1-2-CL 16-17 be received for information.
Thank you, councillors. Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Rayner and seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Any questions or comments? I have one comment to say that this meeting will happen on Thursday at Regional Council meeting. It's December 7th. It's a 7 o'clock start. If you wish to make comment or presentation or delegation at Regional Council, you have to have your request into the Regional Clerk by Friday, December 1st at 4 p.m. So any member of council could make a delegation, any resident of West Lincoln can make a delegation, any resident of Niagara could make a delegation. So I just thought I would bring that forward to let you know. Seeing no other questions or comments, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks. My mayor's remarks will be very short and off the cuff tonight. I just want to say thank you to all of the residents who came out for our Smithville Parade, Christmas in the Village. I want to thank our staff. I want to thank all of the councillors who participated in the parade. And most importantly, I think I want to thank the volunteers, because without the volunteers and the corporate sponsorship, we wouldn't be able to put on this parade. And again, it was a parade that just did not disappoint. It was a fabulous parade. I'm not sure of the count. Does anybody know the count of entries? Usually it's over 80 or 80 plus, but 84. Fabulous floats, bands. The Burlington Teen Tour band, I understand, was from curb to curb and basically from the lights back to Confusion Corner. That's how large that band was. So just an excellent parade. I want to thank Councillor Gann and Councillor Bell for joining me for the grand opening of the Smithville Pharmacy. They had the grand opening on Saturday. It is the very first walk-in clinic here in the Township of West Lincoln. Yes, we've had the Smithville Family Medical Center for years, going back to the 70s, started by Dr. Comley, and Dr. Bell. But that is by appointment. This is actually a walk-in clinic. And it's very unique, and Councillor Bell and Gann will attest to this, is that you have a resident doctor there in the room with you, but then they put you kind of sort of up on Skype, on a screen, and so you're interfacing with the client and the doctor who happens to be in Mississauga. So it's kind of revolutionary. It happens all across Ontario, especially in rural Ontario, and I wish them all the success in the world. The Sod family is a very nice family. They all came out, the mom, the dad, the brothers, and they hail from Mississauga. They immigrated to Canada. They're Egyptian. I don't know if there's another way to say that, but they come from the country of Egypt, and they're very proud to be Canadians. Actually, sometime in the next week, I think the owner's wife is actually going to become a Canadian citizen, so she was very, very excited about that. She immigrated here in 2013. So again, I just want to welcome them to the Township of West Lincoln. Just another case of economic prosperity coming to the township. So it's very good to have all of these new small businesses coming forward. And the third thing I just want to say is, I started to say it just a minute ago with the composition change for Niagara Region Council in order for the Township of West Lincoln to receive another member. We've passed a couple hurdles. We have another hurdle to go through on Thursday night. They actually will be having the public meeting on that night, so it'll receive first reading, second reading, and third reading all in one night. And then the very next day, if it passes on December 8th, it will be sent out to all 11 municipalities, and it will then be up to each municipality to pass it or not, and then send it back to the region, and all of this has to be done by December 31st. So it is a very lofty goal, but fingers crossed that we will be able to achieve this and see a regional councillor for the Township of West Lincoln in the 2018 election. Councillor Rayner, you have a question?
No, I just have a comment to make, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all the work you've done on this. You've gone out of your way, and this has taken a long, drawn-out process where a lot of us, for a long period of time, I know I've been sitting here for a long time, have always felt that we were really the underdogs, and that we were not properly represented to the level that we feel we should be. And this is an opportunity that I hope we can convince the other municipalities that this can happen, because I think it's what we need, and it's good for our township to have this. So let's just cross our fingers, and we've got a month to go, right?
We do, and if this should pass on December 7th, I will be asking for everybody's help on December 8th, West Lincoln Township councilors to reach out to the other municipal councilors all across Niagara to lobby them to support this for West Lincoln. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to report of committee, Planning, Building, Environmental Committee, November 13, 2017 minutes. Confidential minutes are under separate cover. Councillor Chichuk, you have that resolution, please.
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Trombetta that the minutes of the open session portion of the November 13th, 2017 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be accepted and the recommendations contained therein be approved. And that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of November 13th, 2017 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Councillors, did you read the exception, or is it?
I didn't, because I don't have an exception, sir, and I thought if someone did, they'd put it in.
Yeah. So moved by Councillor Chichuk and second by Councillor Trombetta that the minutes of the open session portion of the November 13th, 2017 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be accepted and the recommendations contained therein be approved with the exception of items P 128-17. And that's the only one. Okay. All right. Questions or comments about that? Councillor Trombetta? P 128-17 is the report regarding Gerald and Paige Kelt application for rezoning, file number 1601-013-17 on dated November 13th. And I understand it lost, and it was a technical report. Okay. See no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. And Councillor Gannon, you have the exception, please.
I do, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that item P 128-17 from the November 13th, 2017 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be approved. Item P 128-17, 1, that report PD-137-17 regarding Gerald and Paige Kelt application for rezoning, file number 1601-013-17, dated November 13th, 2017, be received. And 2, that a recommendation report be presented at a future Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting, and after a revised justification report is received, along with all relevant agency comments. And so this was lost.
So, Acting CEO, Mrs. Langley, can you explain?
Through you to members of council, this is one of those situations where the action at committee was lost. Therefore, in order to reverse it, You must first lose this motion, then the original goes back on the table for disposition.
Councilor Rayner?
Couple of questions. One, what the CAO said, this was lost, and in order to bring it back, usually lots of times if you lose things, you don't necessarily bring them back. So, I mean, the first question would be to bring it back. But it's not only that, but I think it sets a kind of a precedent here. This is a technical report, and normally technical reports are not turned down because that's only the first step of the process. So I'm wondering, we vote on it, but really it doesn't require a vote because it always has to go forward. If not, there are ramifications that you don't really want to go into because you're not allowing it to go through the process. So I'm wondering in the future, if there's an actual need for a vote on a technical report, it should be an assumption that it should be for information only, because we're not really wanting to change anything on the report. We just want to accept it because it doesn't get to the point where we could actually stop it if we want to. And if you stop it prematurely, you're setting a precedent. So I'm just wondering if there's a need in the future to even vote on technical reports, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's get some clarification.
That's all. That's what I said.
Director Treble?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the technical report is provided to give committee and council background on the various policy sets that relate, plus any of the agency comments we have received. And like an information report, in many respects, it is just to be received. However, even on information reports, council does vote because that's the way you are able to act, is through the voting process. So it would be my opinion that you still need to act on the technical report and vote on it, but the actual decision, if you want to turn down the application, should be at the time of the recommendation report. That's where the actual bylaw will be presented, and that's where the decision to refuse or grant approval of the actual application for amendment occurs.
Okay. So what I gather out of that is if you want anything to go forward, there has to be a vote on it, even if it is for an information report or a technical report. There still has to be a vote. Councillor?
The only part about that, Mr. Mayor, that doesn't make sense is if it has to have a vote, then that means it does have the possibility of being turned down. And if it does have the possibility of being turned down, like it was a couple weeks ago, then you have to go through kind of the embarrassment of reversing yourself in council when you've given the option, but yet you really don't have the option. So why do it? Do we have to, and I'm not 100% sure, I didn't know that we had to, there are times when we have received for information only that we don't vote on it, I'm sure. I don't think it's everything that we've come across our table, if I remember in all the years I've been doing it. I believe for information only sometimes doesn't get voted on. If I could have a comment from other councillors, I would appreciate it. But as long as you leave the option to vote, you've got to accept the possibility that sometimes it could be turned down. Therefore, you have to accept that. That's part of the rules that you're playing for. Otherwise, if there's no need for it, then don't allow it the possibility of failing when you know you don't want it to fail.
Ms. Langley?
Through you to members of council, there are certainly many instances where we put information items on your agenda. In some cases, it says for information purposes only, and there is no vote. In some instances, though, we do put a report together for information purposes. We do ask that you pass the motion to receive it for information. And yes, you should actually vote in favor of receiving it for information, but the opportunity is there when it is before you to amend it. So it is a good practice, and I think we should continue. But yes, there's no value to turning down or voting down an information report. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so moving forward, we want to vote on this. We want to lose this vote so that we can bring it back up on the table. Okay, so again, moved by Councillor Gannan, second by Councillor Bell. All those in favor?
Of what?
And it's lost.
Don't worry about it. It worked.
Okay, so to bring it back on the floor, Councillor Gannan, you have that too as well, please.
I do, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bilsma, One, that report PD 137-17 regarding Gerald and Page Kelt application for rezoning, file number 1601-013-17 dated November 13th, 2017, be received. And two, that a recommendation report be presented at a future Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting, and after a revised justification report is received, along with all relevant agency comments.
Councilors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councilor Gann and seconded by Councilor Balsma. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we move on to Administration Finance Fire Committee, read November 20th, 2017 minutes. Confidential minutes are under separate cover. Councilor Bell, you have that resolution, please.
I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Cadan that the minutes of Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting held on November 20th, 2017 be accepted, and that the recommendation contained therein be approved, with the exception of item A 101-17, that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the November 20th, 2017 Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exceptions provided in the Municipal Freedom Information Protection Privacy Act.
Councilors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councilor Bell and seconded by Councilor Gann. Is there any questions or comments? Ms. Langley, the exception of item A 101-17.
We'll have to prepare for that, so Joanne can prepare the motion.
Okay. Okay. And what is that again?
It is on page 216 here. I wasn't aware that was being pulled.
Me neither.
So there's a blank in there, just put that the item, and just don't read it all out.
I pulled it
It
down.
has to do with poultry, livestock and poultry protection.
Okay. All right. So with the exception of A101-17, A101-17 is the appoint qualified experienced and independent livestock evaluators, which is the item that Councilor Rayner brought up at the committee meeting. So seeing no other questions or comments, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. And now the exception, who has that?
If you could just wait for a minute, Joanne will prepare that,
Okay.
since we weren't aware it was being pulled. There's some blanks in there, Joanne.
Pass that down to Councilor Rayner to sign. Council's resolution is moved by Councilor Rayner and seconded by Councilor Chichuk that item A101-17 from the November 20th, 2017 Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting be approved. Questions or comments? Councilor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize to the acting CAO and the deputy clerk. I should have called earlier so that it was prepared. But on reviewing this, I forgot to include, as far as the circulation, it should also include the Minister of the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food, with this Jeff Leal. Leal, I believe it's his
Jeff
name.
Leal, yeah.
Yes, out of respect for him, he should have been included in that. And I would also like to make a few comments, Mr. Mayor, if we just take a few minutes, with your condolence.
So page 216 has to be amended?
The motion then to be added, to add what he wants would be an amendment.
Okay. That'll be an amendment to add Minister Leal. Okay.
And if I may make a few comments?
Yep, go ahead.
I found it rather ironic when I made the discussion that I did last week with regards to the coyote situation and the ministry's reaction to it on my particular facilities. And as I mentioned last week, I contacted the Integrity Commissioner to see if I was allowed to speak on it, which under two conditions of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Acts, under two sections, I'm allowed to, specifically interest in common with electors generally, which applies to all the people, not just me, and common to farmers in West Lincoln, and important to bring it forward to their attention. The reason I can do this is because I did not appeal. I am not asking for any remuneration. It would be rather foolish 6 weeks later to get the appeal notice from the ministry, try to locate the coyotes in the woods, try to find the 6-week-old dead carcasses, and coax them back to the chicken coop for a photo shoot to please the ministry. So that wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, this is where we're going from there. I indicated to members of committee last week that Jane Whitcomb, who sent me this letter of refusal, didn't even sign it, which to me shows there must be a reason behind it. The more I think about it, the fact that they went at it from two different directions, taking the breeds of the birds instead of the fact that they were egg layers, which doesn't specifically say that in the act, that it has to be different breeds in order to disqualify it under weight. And then basically saying that what happened didn't happen, to discredit the farmer, to say that that didn't happen, to discredit the livestock evaluator, and most important, not to contact the Ministry of Natural Resources to see if there was a possibility that they could come out and help the farmer or assist the farmer, or at least try to resolve the situation, because in this particular situation, the farmer's livestock has fed the coyotes, which in turn means that they are going to start killing other people's animals, which means there's going to be more claims, which means there's going to be more taxpayers' money paid out. So none of this was done in the interest of the taxpayers or in the interest of the farmers. The weird thing was they said that there was no proof. And when I left here last Monday night, I happened to come home and I was watching a show, and at the end of the show, it was the Good Doctor, there was a picture that a lady took of a coyote with a full-grown orange cat in its mouth walking through a subdivision. Now, this cat weighs 10 or 15 pounds, maybe more. It's a great big cat, and they took pictures of it going through a subdivision. So if a coyote can pick up a 15-pound cat and walk it through the subdivision, I'm sure a 5-pound chicken would not have been difficult to understand why it wasn't there for proof in the pictures, that they didn't have to get off their desk at Guelph and look at the situation. So I felt that was really kind of ironic, the same night that I'm looking at this. The other thing I want to bring to the attention, that I did pursue it with Kathy Richardson from the Ministry of Natural Resources, who her brother and her son are also active in this community. They led me to hunters and trappers who are registered with the province. They came out to my facilities. They went through the woods. They found evidence of coyotes in my woodlot, and they started trapping this weekend. And it's kind of ironic, again, to say that in this particular situation, my chickens were attacked on a Sunday, and yesterday they got 2 of the coyotes on a Sunday. So the coyotes were there. It wasn't a figment of the farmer's imagination, nor of the livestock evaluator. The proof is that they are getting them in the woodlot, and they expect to get more next week when they're going through. So I appreciate that the committee and council is supporting this going to the province. The ministry needs to be more supportive of the farming community and believe and trust in the people who the farmers believe are there for us, and in this particular situation have been let down badly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So we'll deal with the amendment, moved by Councillor Chichak and seconded by Councillor Trombetta, that the Honourable Jeff Leal, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, OMAFRA, be added to the last recommendation for the motion to be circulated. I'll call the vote. All those in favour? That is carried. Now to the original motion as amended. Seeing no more questions or comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you all, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on to Public Works Recreation Arena Committee, November 20th, 2017 minutes. Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rayner that the minutes of the Public Works Recreation Arena Committee meeting held on November 20th, 2017 be accepted and the recommendations contained therein be approved with the exemption of items.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Trombetta and seconded by Councillor Rayner. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Councilors, you'll see that you have the definition there for reconsideration and notice of motion to rescind. We'll now move on to other business, number 13A. We're asking for a verbal update from the fire chief, Mr. Dennis Fisher, and this update is on Bill 148. And the chief and the CAO and myself today, we've been working feverishly to give you pertinent information, up-to-date information, and we think we have it. Go ahead, chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The mayor is correct. We did have a discussion with Mike Ohanas from the labor lawyer in St. Catharines, and it is his interpretation and his thoughts that you will not have to pay the 3 hours. That being said, it's caused a lot of confusion on how municipalities are interpreting the wording. So, but as it stands today, his recommendation is that you don't have to pay the 3 hours.
Thank you. As I understand it, and like I said, we've been, Mike Bonomi from Sullivan Manny, and also we were on the phone today with Mayor Chris White from Guelph, Aramosa Township. And whenever there is safety involved, that is the caveat to say that you don't have to pay that extra 3 hours or essential services. So the volunteer firefighters fall under the essential services, and even in the fact that, as I understand it, even crossing guards, because you need crossing guards from a safety point of view to get the children across the street, so you don't have to pay at that point in time. Mr. Mayor White said it was never intended, Bill 148, to cause any grief to municipalities. That was never their intention. I said to Chris, and he agreed with me, and he sits on the AMO board. He is the representative up in that area for not only AMO, but for the Roma Ogra board or the Roma board too as well. And he said there's still a lot of details to be worked out, but I think they're on the right track. And we're hoping that all these details get put into print so that when the bill comes for royal assent on December 3rd, Chief?
Well, that's what they were guessing, what they had written was, they figured it would be royal assent.
So they're hoping that all of the devils in the detail will be worked out by then. Okay. Questions or comments? Ms. Langley?
Through you to members of council, just to raise the point that we have confirmed that this doesn't impact certain aspects of the fire department, but there are many other aspects of this bill that will have an impact financially on this municipality. Staff are working through them, but there are, as they said, many gray areas, and so we've just started our review. So you will be hearing more about this, and there will be an impact.
Okay. All right. So, thank you, Chief, for that verbal update. Have a good night. Go celebrate. Next, we have, it's under my name, the appointment of the acting mayor schedule, which is the 2018 rotation schedule. And you'll recall, councilors, that at the beginning of the term, we decided to have the acting mayor be the acting mayor for 6-month terms. And then once everybody has had a chance for a 6-month term, that the last rotation would be a 2-month rotation. So the rotation is there before you, starting with Councillor Bell, Councillor Balsma, Councillor Chichuk, Councillor Trombetta, Councillor Rayner, and Councillor Ganan. You have the last rotation from October 1st to November 30th, which is the end of this term of council. Okay, so the resolution, Councillor Balsma, do you have that resolution, please?
Yes, I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that the 2018 acting mayor rotation schedule be set as follows. And Councillor Bell from December 1st to January 31st, myself February 1st to March 31st, Councillor Chichok from April 1st to May 31st, Councillor Trombetta from June 1st to July 31st, Councillor Rayner from August 1st to September 30, and Councillor Ganan from October 1st to November 30th, all in 2018.
Thank you, councilors. You've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Balsma and seconded by Councillor Bell. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, council remarks, members of council. We'll start my left, Councilor Rayner.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Trombetta.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Councilor Chichuk.
Other than I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, the parade on Saturday was a great opportunity for families to be out and huddle together as that parade went by, and we really enjoyed ourselves that day as well. And I spread candy canes around, and I didn't throw them.
Good, good. It wasn't that cold of a day, but by the end, the dampness was right through you. I know a lot of people said that. So, Councilor Ganan?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I also enjoyed the parade, and lots of people out. It was good to see. I wanted to just mention that now that the Christmas season is upon us, that the Silverdale people are putting on their turkey dinner on Friday, the same Friday, of course, again, as our township dinner. But for people who might be watching this, it's good to know that that is in support of community care. Saturday is the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Holiday Home Show from 10 until 4 at the West Niagara Fairgrounds, and College Street School is also doing a stop and shop that day as well, so lots of local things you can be doing. In addition to the Willow Tree Studios, still carrying Chris Alexander's fudge right up until Christmas, with donations also going to community care. So,
Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Councilor Balsma?
Nothing.
Okay. Councilor Bell? Okay, very good. Let's move.
I got something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Bell.
Not much for the community because it's all been said, and it was said quite well by all the councillors. What I do want to talk about is an item that was on the agenda last week from the Public Works Recreation Committee, and it refers to Councillor Bilsma's apology to myself, code of conduct complaint. I've got it in front of me. I've read it many a times. I've watched it on the video, and I guess when I reviewed what the Integrity Commissioner had said and how she had laid out what was and what wasn't code of conduct, didn't meet, and how the apology was read versus what was laid out there. You know, growing up, one of the things that we were taught as kids by our parents was that when you do a wrong, you face the people and you apologize for what you did wrong. And that's carried a lot of value with me. I've taught my kids the same thing. Moving forward, when something is wrong and it's proven that it's wrong, you need to apologize, and apologize in a meaningful way that is sincere. And I found that this apology really wasn't, it dealt with transgression only. It didn't meet, in my mind personally, a sincere apology, and I regret that. And it also didn't address the portion of the code of conduct that Councilor Bilsma had misled the public. There was no mention of it. There was no apology to the public, residents of West Lincoln and other communities. And for that, again, I find it very sad that Councilor Bilsma didn't address these issues. It was unfortunate I wasn't able to be here last week, and that's why I'm bringing it up tonight. I would really like to give Councilor Bilsma another chance to do that, because the way it stands right now, I can't accept that apology for myself and or for the residents of West Lincoln. I really don't have anything else to say. I'm just kind of taken back by it, to be honest with you, that it was done in the fashion it was done, and there was no sincerity there. So it's not the way I was taught. So it's not a good example to show our kids. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bell. I'd like to weigh in a little bit on that too as well. I want to thank Councilor Balsma for doing the apology, because you could have not to. You could have chosen not to, but you did do it. But I just felt that it was a little light on content. It dealt with the transgressions and the fact that, well, I should have said, in my opinion, that there were transgressions. I thought there was so much more to it that could have been brought forward with the apology. And I felt that I felt that Ms. Craig, our Integrity Commissioner, went above and beyond and really did a great job of laying it out as to some of the points perhaps she could have hit. And I think there were 4 or 5 points there, and I would have been happy with even 2 or 3 points hit. I didn't really hear you hit any of the points, to be honest with you. And I just felt that it was a very, very kind of rushed apology, and it didn't really hit the mark. Caused us a lot of grief. It did. It caused us a lot of grief, and I'm proud of this municipality for having an integrity commissioner in place before the bylaw ever came into effect. We've been ahead of the curve of most municipalities, or I don't know how many municipalities, but there's a lot of municipalities out there that are just actually getting their head wrapped around this. We're still trying to figure it out at the Niagara region for crying out loud, but we were ahead of the game in doing this. So I'm not ashamed. The fact that this went to the Integrity Commissioner, I'm glad to see that there was some conclusion. But I just thought that, Councillor Bylsma, that if you get a chance and to actually go back and ponder this and maybe come back, if you could, with maybe a little different apology onto it. You don't have to, but I just felt that it just didn't meet the mark of the points that the Integrity Commissioner laid out for you. It's just how I feel. Okay, we'll move on to new items of business. Only for items that require immediate attention, direction from council, and must first approve a motion to introduce a new item of business. Is there any new items of business? Seeing none, we'll move on to bylaws. And Councillor Chichuk, you have that huge list.
But I move by number only, Mr. Mayor, so moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Trombetta, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2017, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, and 132, all with 2017 being in their part of their number, and that the same shall be considered to have been read first, second, and third with one reading, and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Chichuk and seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Are there any questions or comments about the bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll move into confidential matters. Councillor Gannan, you have the resolution to go into closed session, please.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Trombetta that the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to Section 239, Section 2 of the Municipal Act 2001. A, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Re, legal/property matter, proposal to purchase, township lands, applicable closed session exemptions, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. B, Acting CAO Clerk Carolyn Langley, re, personnel matter, CAO recruit, applicable closed session exemptions, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, and C, Acting CAO Clerk Carolyn Langley, re, personnel matters, staffing issues, applicable closed session exemptions, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations.
Councillors have heard the resolution moved by Councillor Gannan and seconded by Councillor Trombetta. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. We can close the doors and put up the signs.